Hi, you're joining another episode of Profits and Purpose brought to you by Colorado Business Roundtable. And currently we're recording a series about our incredible trip to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia with other members of the delegation from Colorado's business community who were able to join on this really once in a lifetime trip. And today I'm really excited to introduce to our audience, Scott Yenzer. Scott and I worked together in oil and gas for many years, and I really heard most about Saudi Arabia initially from Scott. So Scott, welcome to the podcast this morning. Glad to have you on.
Thank you. I'm excited to share. Yeah.
So Scott, fill us in a little bit more about you, what you're doing currently, and then how you had this connection to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia way back when.
Fantastic. Thank you. I'm with a company called JMJ Associates, and we're basically a world leader in behavioral-based safety and mega giga project consulting. Also on the board of Strategic Environmental and Engineering Resources, just a environmental technology company. A bunch of cool stuff. So I joined JMJ because I was exposed to them when I was working in Saudi Arabia. I ran the Middle East operations for Jacobs and lived in Saudi for 15 years. So I had the opportunity as a client of JMJ to learn their procedures and so forth. And we applied it to some of the projects that we were doing for Saudi Aramco, and ended up one of the projects right before I left, we gained 25 million man hours without a lost time injury, which is incredible. 16 different nationalities, everybody going to work and coming home without getting hurt. It was spectacular. So yeah, I had a great experience. Obviously, I didn't hate it, lived there for 15 years.
And that was a long time ago. I think about even visiting Saudi Arabia in 2021. I had a lot of people really shocked, like, why are you going to Saudi Arabia? It's not really on, everyone's bucket list as a place to do business or maybe to travel. But I think from what we saw on our trip together, particularly for me, because it was my first time there, some of those misconceptions were kind of put to rest. So tell me before we jump into the current trip, tell me more about what took you to Saudi Arabia back in the 70s and what that was like initially for you.
Oh boy, the 70s. It wasn't the 70s. 1992. I was just fresh out of college, and I just from my dad.
I don't know why I said the 70s. I don't know why I had that in my head. I think that was from the lady we met with the Wall Street Journal, who said she'd been covering Saudi Arabia since the 70s.
I'll take that. So yeah, basically as a kid growing up, my dad had worked there a long time ago, and just knew that working overseas, you made more money than you did working in the States. So had the opportunity as, first year out of college, my company at the time is KBR, had a project over there. So I went over for 1 year to pay off college in a car, and stayed for 15. Got to learn a lot. My boss used to say, if you could steam a window, they'll give the work to you. So I got a lot of opportunities, learned a whole lot, really enjoyed the culture, just friendly people, very welcoming, and the region. I grew up in the desert and I love the desert. So that's what took me there and why I stayed.
And you even raised some kids there while you were there, right?
I did, yeah. My oldest boy went to school from first grade through ninth grade. My two youngest were born there. So yeah, it was a great experience all around. We got to travel a lot. I mean, part of being in the Middle East is you get a lot of vacation. So we got to travel around the world. It was lovely.
So when this opportunity came up for Colorado Business Roundtable, I remember talking to you about it, how we met Ambassador Rima, some of the different threads of how this invitation came about to visit the kingdom. And you were one person that I was really excited that was able to join because you had that experience already with the country. So tell me what your initial thoughts were when we talked and you were going to join the delegation. Like, I know that mind spinning, you had a lot of great advice for us. What were your initial thoughts?
I was really exciid because I lived there from 92 to 2008. And the last time I had visited was 2016. And the changes that I had been reading about and my friends from Saudi had been telling me about are just spectacular. Though the business environment, I was always very pro Saudi working in that business environment. It's kind of funny. At the time, some people were, poo-pooing Saudi and, oh, it's hard to do business and so forth. Well, I think it was Forbes or something ranked them. This is in the early 2000s, ranked around 16th, I think, and it was above Canada. So sorry, Canadian friends, but it was technically, as viewed by the media, that it was easier to do business in Saudi than it was there. People talked about corruption, and okay, yeah, there's corruption everywhere. I don't know why we were able to do business there, for 15 years without ever committing to that, even though some companies was like, oh, it's just the way you do business, it's the way it is over there. And I wholesale rejected that from day one, and we were really successful. So you don't have to be that way. Now, a lot of the corruption's been cut out. Even the stuff that was there, and people will remember it was in the news about what happened when the Crown Prince took over, and a lot has been cleaned up. And the business environment has just changed spectacularly as well. And with the mega and giga projects, I imagine there's the same safeguards around procurement and so forth that they've had for a long time. But on regular small businesses and the institutions and apps that they have set up to run a business, to start a business, it has just grown spectacularly.
So let's jump ahead now to the trip that we just recently took with other CEOs and executives from Colorado. And it was a really unique trip. I suspect we were the only delegation of its kind from the United States, perhaps at this particular conference that we went to, FII. But give some sense of, kind of the highlights of the trip from your perspective, one just generally, and then after that, I'll delve into maybe specific business opportunities that you saw.
Okay. Yeah, there was, I definitely believe we were the only delegation at being hosted by the Royal Court. So that was pretty special. Didn't see any other Royal Court buses and Mercedes driving around with other people. So it was really nice. It was great to meet the leaders there. I mean, some of them, like Khalid Fallah, I'd known already, the Minister of Investment, and some of the others that we have cross paths, but sitting across the table from them in confidential meetings was spectacular. Just really, I guess my big takeaway was how they all spoke with one voice on the mission of 2030, where they're all aligned and they have KPIs that are driven by the Crown Prince, and then of course the opportunity to meet the Crown Prince and his energy level and commitment to change. It speaks through his ministers with that coherence, and it also speaks through his policies. I mean, he technically, I guess you could say, freed 15 million women. I mean, they have the freedom and liberty to operate and go anywhere they want and anywhere in the world they want. It's unbelievable change.
Well, and especially coming from you as someone who's seen before, and I would say right now is probably during and after, but it'll be interesting to see, what the next handful of years brings in some of the furthering of Vision 2030, what the kingdom is trying to do in terms of social empowerment and economic diversification. When do you go back to see kind of, the next steps? I know that you're excited to now do more business in Saudi Arabia, kind of re-energize your commitment to the region as well.
Exactly. Right now, the target is first week of December. So we'll head back then, and then probably in January as well. So we're having ongoing discussions with Aramco. And then we've got a few other touch points that Aramco is a former relationship that I have, but we've got other business opportunities that came across through this trip with FII and some of the people I met with FII. So just following up with all of those contacts is it's a lot more productive when you're actually there face to face. The Saudis, if you want to, I hate to stereotype people, but they're very hospitable and very relationship based. So being there in person means a lot.
Well, that describes me too, Scott. So
exactly.
I proves we're all very similar. If I
Yeah,
can build a relationship, it makes all the difference in the world. So I definitely
100%.
get
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
What was the most surprising thing about the trip? Was there anything that just really stood out in a surprising way?
Yes, because I most of my time I spent in the eastern province, and it's really flat. Their beauty is underground with oil and gas. Yeah, and I made some trips to Abha in the southwest, and then Jeddah and Yambu. We had a project in Yambu, Yambu. But I had never been in Alula and up in that area, so it was really spectacular. The beauty and just the of the rocks and the sand and the date palms in between the rocks was something I had not seen before in person, or really there was not much documentation of that. That was surprising. The discussions, I mean, maybe with the foreign minister, His Excellency Adel Al Jubeir, was a wonderful conversation. Just kind of covered a wide range of politics, of culture, what they plan to do as far as the mega giga projects, the introduction to Jerry out there at Riyadh. It was, I guess those were a couple of the highlights and surprising things, because I've always been a big fan of His Excellency, but you see him on TV, but when you talk to him, you really get his personality, and it was fun.
Well, and you brought up Jerry. I think that's a funny story to maybe let people know about, that in the middle of, a pretty high level meeting, we get Jerry on the phone, who's from New Jersey, right? Like share more about that story. I just think that's such a nugget.
It was fun. It's within a 2-hour meeting with His Excellency, and we're at the foreign minister's office and in the main meeting room with all the speakers in front of you. It's where they have the state meetings, and so in that he was excited that we went to Lula, and he asked if we'd been to Dalia, and I had been there maybe 20 years ago with the kids, but this before they made it a World Heritage Site. He's like, oh, you have to go see it, and somebody brought him his phone. He called him on his mobile and had him on speaker, and he's like, hey Jerry, and he said hello everybody, and he's like, say hello everybody, which we did. So it was just funny, and just really got to know the personality, and it really shows how warm and welcoming and easy to work with the Saudi group is. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was an amazing time. And then the next day we're meeting with Jerry and getting our own kind of briefing of that incredible project that's really going to be, I think probably the shining star of Riyadh in the future. Is that how they're describing it?
Yeah, it's one. They've got another Grea, I think is how you pronounce it, is another like a sports city to train Olympians and so forth. So that's moving as well. But this one is kind of designed in architecture around the heritage of their architecture. So it's and it's centered around their capital, where the House of Saud started, really, which is the World Heritage Site. It's a great concept. I love it. It's going to be an amazing project. And that, again, in that conversation, here's a guy that gets calls at 2 a.m. from the Crown Prince talking about the project, and nobody made any mistake about the guy's working 80 hours a week, and he's a hardworking, passionate guy for the betterment of his people. I mean, it's Saudi first for him, and I think it's fantastic.
So tell me, if somebody's interested, like you are with some of the business interests you have, if other folks are interested in investing or having partnerships or some collaboration in Saudi Arabia, I don't know that it's necessarily top of mind for Colorado businesses, but why should it be? And what would your advice be to other people looking for business interests there?
I'd say probably a couple of the things that I know a bit about is technology environment, right? So the Saudis looking for technology. They want the best of the best, and here in Colorado, we've attracted like the best in technology and environment. We produce the cleanest molecule of oil and gas in the world right here. So there's a lot of learnings from an oil and gas standpoint that they'll be interested in. I think there's a nice tie between our oil and gas the advances that we have made with Saudi Aramco. There's advances in NEOM, where we've got technology and AI, like Danny's company, De Novo, for instance, like JMJ, where we're working on behavioral-based technologies in the AI space. I think they're interested in all of that, and Colorado really is a center of excellence for those technologies. And how do they do that? I think really the best place is Colorado Business Roundtable, right? Funnel it through you, Debbie, and then we will all help to point them in the right direction, because we met so many ministries, that if it's the private investment fund, if it's the investment, if you want to invest, you go through the PIF to His Excellency Kalafala. There's many avenues, and we can point them in the right direction. Good. You made a good friendship with the Minister of Commerce, so there's so many ways. And I would say just go straight to Colorado Business Roundtable, and we will help you.
Well, thanks for that plug, Scott. Actually, we'll probably have a few routes on our website. We're having a debrief with, I think as you know, Del Roosevelt, who's the president of the U.S. Saudi Business Council. We'll hopefully have someone on from the embassy coming up on a debrief call with our other kind of broader based business partners. So we'll help people funnel the right way. And and like you said, it might depend on the opportunity they're looking for to know how to get
absolutely. And Colorado, I say, because I know you've got those relationships with Dell now, and the U.S. Saudi Business Council, like I think I was at the first meeting at the founding of that back in Saudi Arabia. So I've been involved with that group for a long time, and Dell's a great leader for that organization. So they're super helpful. Again, if you're in Colorado, I'd say through Debbie. Debbie will point you, especially in those places. Sorry, Debbie. Debbie and Debbie's assistant, of course. There are many assistants.
Of course. No, it's all good. It's all good. Well, Scott, thanks so much for the time today. What else? Is there anything else you want to share, a closing comment about what people might find if they visit or do business in Saudi Arabia?
Gosh, I think they're going to find a lot of really smart people. What were the stats? 70% of their population is under 30. A lot of really, and they're highly motivated in the tech and programming space. So a lot of young, ambitious people that are revolutionizing the area, and there's a lot of passion for that. So the Saudis, a lot of the Saudis, they kind of lived the way they did because it was the law, but as they could, my friends, they'd send their daughters to school in the States, and they're very open like that. There are conservative families that are not so open, and they can live like that. They have that liberty. But if an individual doesn't want to live that way, she has liberty to go do what she wants. That story that Princess Rima told us about the two Olympians, spectacular story. So I would say that they're going to find families living and behaving the way that they always have, but now they've got the freedom and liberty to do that publicly. Let's put it that way. I think that's the best. Business-wise, it's fantastic. There's a lot of growth. There's a lot of investment there. It's going to blow Dubai out of the water. Sorry, Emirati friends, but
Dubai should be worried, don't you think?
Yeah, there's so many sites. They've got historic Jewish sites. They've got Christian sites. Mount Sinai's there. Eve was buried there. Caves that Joseph hid in are there. It's all in Saudi. That whole region is so rich in culture, and like His Excellency said, he goes, they're going to share all the Jewish stuff, all the Christian stuff. So, and for me, being a racer, they've got the Dakar Rally there. It's awesome. So go to the Dakar Rally, and then F1. So I'm really excited at their trajectory. It's amazing. So.
Thanks so much, Scott. It's hard to, I think my challenge to you is like, what one closing comment? And you're like, oh my gosh, there's so many. It's hard to even wrap our heads around what we saw, let alone where your mind must have been. Again, having lived and worked there for so many years before this trip as well.
It is. So I'm restraining myself as much as possible. So.
I know you are, but I love the enthusiasm, because I certainly felt it too, and everybody on the trip did. And I appreciate you taking the time to tape this podcast for us with Colorado Business Roundtable today. Absolutely. And I appreciate especially your expertise on the trip. You were an invaluable member to come with us with your perspective on Saudi Arabia and also your knowledge of Colorado's business.
Yeah, perfect. And yeah, it's great. And shout out to Dell and our good buddy Donald Hepburn for setting the trajectory for all this. Is fantastic.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
So thanks, Scott. And thanks everyone for tuning in. This has been an episode of Profits and Purpose with Colorado Business Roundtable.